Apologies for the interruption, but okay, never mind. The screen changed now. Because I'm not feeling well, I'm turning my camera off.
Thanks for being here, though, Jamie. Sorry you're not feeling well. You right?
Yeah, I'm right now. So
Okay. Well, I call to order this City of King City Council meeting at 6:09 p.m. on October 18th. Mr. Weston, please call roll.
all right, we'll start online. Mayor Pender,
Here.
Councilor Petrie.
Here.
Councilor Troller,
Here.
Councilor Manel,
Here.
Councilor Thompson is not here. Councilor Moore.
Online.
Oh, Councilor Thompson, are you online?
I'm here.
Okay. For more?
Here.
And President Paulson.
I'm here. Thank you. Looks like first we have a couple of agenda items to add. Do we need motions to add these to the agenda? First looks like a request for City Council to add Amendment 1 to Task Order 1 for the Master Consulting Services Agreement by Consor. We have.
I have nothing on.
Looks yours.
Additional task, compensation on engineering this year.
I will need a motion to add that to the agenda.
Sure. I move to add the request to add Amendment 1 to Task Order 1 to the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those, do you need a roll call for that? Probably not.
No. I can just show of hands.
All those in favor, please raise your hand.
5. Councilor Thompson.
Raise my hand.
are you
I
in
just
favor?
button.
I did the same as well.
That was just for the adding Amendment 1 to Task Order 1.
Well,
No.
Councilor Thompson, but I didn't quite hear. But yes, okay, sorry.
I raised my hand.
And then we have a second agenda item to add, for the request to add Amendment 3 to the Legal Services Agreement for Jordan Ramus, PC. Can I get a motion on that?
Move to add that request to add Amendment 3 to our agenda.
All those in favor, please raise your hand.
That's 6, 7.
And just to note, Shauna, Councilor Thompson and myself are using the hand function on Zoom to indicate our vote.
Thank you. And then the last item on there, got a number of question marks after it, so I wasn't sure, are we? Yeah, I think because Mayor Fender is not here, maybe we should hold on adding that one too.
Okay.
The last item on for OJEC? GEC? I don't believe there's any updates.
I don't think we have an update on that really, other than what we talked about on October 4th.
Correct. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to approval of minutes. We don't have any minutes for approval today, so we'll move straight through to open forum. At this time, the council will be happy to receive your comments pertaining to items on the agenda, with the exception of public hearings for which testimony will be received and conducted in the proper form and manner at the time of the hearing, including questions, suggestions, complaints, and items for the future. Each person's time will be limited to 3 minutes. And maybe let's go ahead and start. Do we have anybody online? First? A couple more. All right, I'll go ahead and start in the room. Is there anybody in the room who would like to give public comment?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, please state your name and address.
Carl Swanson, 12085 Southwest King Richard Drive, King City, Oregon.
And 3 minutes.
Okay, I'd like to address the item that got left off the agenda, even though it was supposed to be on the agenda as brought up by Mayor Pender at the last meeting. And city manager just said there was no information, which is not correct. On October 6th, there was a finding by the OGDC that there was substantial investigation should begin on all counselors because they found that all may have violated the ethics law. So there has been new information. The new information found that it was substantiated and there is a valid complaint, and they are going to move forward with an investigation. So all the testimony that was given in the last meeting that this was harassment and had no standing, and the city attorney and the city manager had both said that there was no violation, just once again shows they are not familiar with the legal proceedings, and once again have started falsehoods and lies on in this forum, and it has now been found that that information was incorrect. What Mayor Pender said here was incorrect, and yes, they will be investigating what they found as likely violations of Oregon.
Well, unfortunately, in a public comment, we're not responding. So thank you for your comment.
Can I ask a question?
Not underneath the public comment. I'm sorry. Do we have any other public comment in the room?
Hi, I'm Randall Olson, living in King City at 13509 Southwest King Lear Way, and I'll be very brief. As I think most of you are aware, I'm the chief petitioner for the recall petition, but several of you are my neighbors. You live about a dozen houses away. Smart lives across the alleyway, and I know him to be a really decent man and a really nice family. So I just wanted to say, you know, being an unpaid volunteer can feel like a thankless job. I want to thank you for the time and hard work you all put into managing the city and planning for its future. I think you're all good people, volunteering to serve your city and doing the best job that you can. I want to assure you that the recall is nothing personal. It's simply, we have repeatedly voiced our opposition to the Fisher Road extension as planned, and feel the recall is our only remaining option. That's it. Thanks.
Do we have any other comments in the room or online? Then we will move on to, well, I guess I should ask, where are we adding those agenda items within? We didn't specify that. I apologize.
I think both items are new, so it needs to be under section 6. I would say after the prize disposal presentation,
Okay.
would be a good spot for it.
Do we need another motion to specifically place it there?
Yeah, we could actually just follow the resolution that's already in there. We have a resolution 2023-13 that's already in there. So we could add them as C and D, so 6C and 6D.
B and 6D. So can I get a motion to add those two added agenda items as items B and C, or C and D?
Can we just,
And
Or, yeah.
sorry, that this is Jamie Fender. So moved. I would also, well, I'll wait, since we have a motion on the table. But I also would like to make an additional motion.
All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Counselor Thompson?
Sorry, yes.
Mayor Fender?
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm not doing very well. So I'm not feeling very well. And I kind of missed I had some technical issues there at the beginning. So I was having a hard time hearing some of the things. However, I did ask at the last meeting that we put a standing agenda item going forward until the completion of the ethics complaint / investigation. So I would like an item to be added to the agenda tonight so that we can discuss. And I would like that item to be on the agenda going forward at every council meeting without having to add it. So if we can add that to the bottom of the agenda from wherever you just added the last two additions, then I think that will take care of the agenda tonight.
So do we have a motion to add that
So moved.
in a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. So that will be added as item,
Mayor Fender, thank you.
so that will be added as item E under new business.
So item E, or 6E, right? 6E.
Correct, 6E.
6E is OGEC update.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to item 5, unfinished business. Item 5A is ordinance 2023-04. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have a continuation of a legislative land use hearing from September 20th, 2023 and October 4th, 2023, related to the adoption of amendments to the King City Community Development Code, Title 16, and Municipal Code. The public testimony portion of the public hearings was closed on October 4th, 2023, and the second reading of the ordinance title was scheduled for October 18th, 2023. So, Mr. Weston, please give us a second reading of ordinance 2023-04.
Ordinance 2304, an ordinance considering land use file 23-04, amending Title 16 of the Community Development Code and other municipal code. Doesn't include This is short title I have right here. Sorry for the confusion, they're slightly different, so it is that. Yeah. Okay, all right.
There's two ordinances.
Sorry about that. Ordinance 2023-04, an ordinance considering land use file 23-4, amending the Title 16 Community Development Code and other municipal codes.
Thank you. Is there any council discussion on this ordinance? Any online?
Yeah, I wanted to discuss something. This is Counselor Thompson. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's difficult to hear you.
How about now?
That sounds better.
The thing, first of all, I apologize for not being able to attend the last meeting. So I'm not sure if you discussed this already at the last meeting, but I did bring it up at the prior meeting, and that is regarding the raising the noise level, the decibels that we're going to allow in our city. I just do have some concerns over that because we're raising them significantly. I'm not sure if any of my fellow counselors share that concern, but it is concerning to me.
And I believe if I recall correctly from the last meeting, those decibel levels were actually to be being raised to be brought in line with neighboring communities, and where it was originally was basically at a speaking voice.
A whisper.
A whisper.
Okay. All right.
We even brought in what's your microphone called? The decibel meter? At the hearing, we brought in a decibel meter, and we'd be violating the sound ordinance just talking right now.
Okay.
So it would, like, the rustle of paper would violate the current decibel limit.
Okay. All right.
Does that help to address, Rishana?
Yeah, I just wanted to read it in case other people were kind of still thinking about it as well. But if everybody else seems, okay with it, then I'm okay with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or discussion items? Seeing and hearing none. If there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion to either approve with conditions, or deny. If I could get a motion.
In order, I can't recall exactly, did we close the public testimony? Okay.
Yes. So again, if I can get a motion on this.
I move that council approve ordinance number 0-2023-04, ordinance considering land use file 23-4, amending the Title 16 Community Development Code and other municipal codes.
We have a motion by Councilor Petrie. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't see who that was.
It was Jamie.
That was Jamie. Okay. Okay. All right. So do we need a roll call vote for this then?
Yeah.
Yep. So I can.
Councilor Petrie,
Yes.
Councilor Choli,
Yes.
Councilor Manella,
Yes.
Councilor Moore,
Yes.
Councilor Thompson.
I'm going to go ahead and abstain from voting on this. And I just want to state my reasoning behind that is I don't want any confusion over my previous votes regarding the expansion. So I'm going to choose to abstain from voting on this one.
Bender,
Yes.
President Paulson.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0-1.
Motion passes. If you desire to appeal this decision to the city council, you must fill out an appeal application stating the grounds for your appeal to the city recorder within 15 days of mailing of the decision notice. The decision notice is generally mailed within 1 week following the decision. The grounds for an appeal of the legislative decision are contained in ORS Chapter 197, specifically ORS 197.620. So we're moving on then to item 5B. Ordinance O-2023-05. Tonight we have a continuation of Ordinance O-2023-05, hearing from September 20th, 2023, related to the repealing of Ordinance number O-02-05, creating a process for the development of reimbursement districts, Chapter 3.03, and replacing with Chapter 3.03 Advanced Finance Reimbursement System. The public testimony portion of the public hearing was closed on September 20th, 2023. The second reading of the ordinance title was scheduled for October 18th, 2023. So now I would like to ask Mr. Weston for a second reading.
Ordinance 2023-04, repealing Ordinance 0-02-05, creating a process for development of reimbursement districts, Chapters 3.03, and replacing with Chapter 3.03 Advanced Finance Reimbursement System.
Thank you. Is there any council discussion? Any online? Okay. Hearing none. If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to either approve with conditions, or deny. Please get a motion.
I'd like to move to approve ordinance O-2023-05.
Thank you. Can we have a second?
Second.
And then if, Mr. Weston, if we could do a roll call vote, please.
Councilor Manala?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Councilor Choli?
Yes.
Councilor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilor Petrie?
Yes.
Mayor Fender?
Yes.
And President Paulson?
Yes.
Carries 7-0.
The motion passes, and we will now move on to new business, item 6. First item of new business is item 6A, the Pride Disposal Rate Increase Proposal, and we would like to welcome Kristen Leichner to discuss.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Kristen Leichner, and I'm the president and one of the owners of Pride Disposal Company, and here before you for our annual rate discussion. So as some of you may recall who have been on council for a while, we have a process in King City that has been in place for about 5 years now that for years we've turned in an annual report, but for about 5 years we've had the CPI methodology in the code as part of our franchise agreement. And so we turn in a very detailed cost report to you all yearly on March 15th. And that allocates our costs. So we serve 7 different jurisdictions, including King City. And so the report that you receive, you see our full company data, and then you see the costs and revenues that are allocated just to King City for the cost to provide the services here. And based on that report and the methodology, our rate of return for the 2022 calendar year, which seems like a really long time ago, but that is the year we're talking about, came in at 10.71%. And so based on the methodology and the code and the consumer price index that we use, that calls for a 7.87% rate increase for the year that would start in January 1st, 2024. So that is the information that you have before you today. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about that. And also just want to let you know that we do our best to try and keep our costs as affordable as we can. Constantly looking, we're chatting with some counselors before the meeting about some of the rerouting we're doing, trying to find more efficient ways to provide the services to the community. In the last few years, we have invested in some split body trucks. So we can actually, with the automated arm, we can service 2 different commodities at each home because the body of the truck actually has 2 separate compartments. And then there's a diverter panel on the top. So the thing that takes the most time when we're running a route is to actually drive between houses. So if we're able to pick up 2 parts at each house, we're able to be more efficient. And so we're constantly looking at things like that we can do to be more efficient. But also, as you know, the inflation that has hit everybody has hit us as well. The cost of our trucks has gone up. Cost of our insurance has gone up, disposal fees have gone up, and those are all things that we have no control over. So we try to control the things we can control, and then there are a lot of outside factors that contribute to our costs going up as well. So.
So one question I have, where it says commingled recycle values remain poor, is that just in the market, or is that consumer putting items in commingled recycle that shouldn't be in there?
So it's the value of the materials. And the cleaner we can have the materials, the higher the value is, but our customers do a pretty good job. I think we're above the average for the region, and that sounds backwards. Our contamination rate is below the average for the region, so we're doing better than average. But we do still see some contamination, but really that just has to do, the recycling materials, they become a commodity, and commodity markets can be very volatile. And so, there used to be a lot more value in paper, and that value has gone down. Plastic can go up and down, and so we kind of ride that commodity wave. And years ago, we used to get paid for the value of the recycling that we collected, and then that revenue we would receive would go to help offset the cost of providing the service. But now, for the last several years, consistently, we've been paying to drop off recycling materials rather than receiving revenue, and so that has been quite a big shift. And that what we pay can go up and down a bit, but we have remained in the situation where we're paying for the material rather than receiving money for the material.
And then, I think it was last year when we talked, we added the food scraps into the green waste, and then also the purple recycling bin. Has those programs been successful, or
Yeah.
how?
Yeah, I think the thing to keep in mind with the food trucks and the yard debris is that it is available to everybody, but the amount of food that ends up in the cart is relatively small. So when you look at the pile of the material at our facility before it goes to the compost facility, sometimes you don't see food in it, depending on the time of year. If there's a lot of leaves in it or a lot of grass clippings, it might be like, oh, I think I see an apple, but it's not like you would look at it and say, oh, that's food scraps. But we are seeing participation. It's just a relatively low percentage. And then the Recycle Plus program with the purple bins, that is a subscription optional service. So we definitely have people take advantage of it. I apologize, I don't have facts on that right now, but we do have King City customers participating.
Yeah, I've seen some of the containers around, so, okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
I'm not mistaken, the rate effect, you no longer need us to individually approve every year, correct? It's already built into the ordinance that we passed like a couple years ago, correct?
So the process, the ordinance has kind of the math problem that we work on, but it does still require council approval. So we cannot unilaterally change rates without council approval.
All right. So
A lot of the questions that I would have been answered over the years, so I'm not new to this process anymore, so. Thank you for your clarity over the years.
very much. Okay, then, I believe we'll need a motion to vote on a motion to either approve of conditions, or deny. Can I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the pride disposal rate increase, what would be effective, January 1, 2024.
Have a second?
Second that?
And then this does not need a roll call vote, is that correct, Mike?
Correct, I could just do count of hands,
Okay, so if everybody could, by a count of hands,
2 online. Unanimous.
motion passes. Now we will move on to item 6B, which is a resolution, does that,
Thank you.
thank you. What does that means, authorizing? Authorizing? Yeah, authoring. A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute Amendment 1 to the King City Transportation and Parks Methodology Service Agreement between Financial Consulting Solutions Group, Inc., and the City of King City.
To give you an update, we just recently went through and adopted all the SDCs for single-family, multifamily, residential components. To be a continuation of that for the commercial industrial elements, and it builds the calculator essentially that we would use in developing what the proper SDC, system development charge, would be on any particular development in the new growth area.
That would also give us guidance.
So it's like step 2 of the system development charge development.
Understood. Anybody have any questions on this? Any questions online? Hearing and seeing none, I will entertain a motion to either approve with conditions, or deny.
Resolution R 2023-13.
And this also looks like it does not require a roll call vote. So for those who would like to vote to approve, please raise your hand.
Online. 6 so far. Councilor Thompson?
Yes, sir. By my hand.
Gotcha.
That was
Motion carries.
That was unanimous. Okay, so motion passes. And we will move on to item 6C, which is one of the items we added earlier. This is the Amendment 1 to Task Order 1 for the Master Consulting Services Agreement for Consor. Mike, would you like to take us through this?
I'm bringing this to your attention because it exceeds the spending limits for city manager to just go off and sign off on it. In the budget, we had about $90,000 set aside for compensation, engineering for the street fund, and the total street funds this year are included the park trail, which was funded through state government, the Christmas tree fund with Rep. Neron, Mayor Bender, and others worked on. But we also did a stormwater improvement over here on Crown Drive. We paved Crown Drive. We also did improvements on Part 4 and 88 on Part 4 as well. What else am I missing? There's one more, right? Oh yes, the second portion of Prince Albert as well. So we've done all of those projects this year. We did run into some problems along the way. Root barrier was a problem. We ran into some problems at the park with the vehicle access and concrete work and other elements, broken lines, those sort of things. That required us to have our engineers come out and spend time redesigning elements to fix problems that were created through the contract piece, and that puts us over the contract that we had with Consor for their engineering services. What you're seeing here is the overages of time and other elements associated with the storm drain that was put in up here, along with tying into the other storm systems, sidewalks, root barriers, trees that we had to remove along the way, along with other routes that, so mostly what you're seeing here is an accounting of time, extra time associated with the street project this year that exceeded budget.
Anybody have any?
Not very happy about.
I mean, in the past couple of years, I haven't seen anything like this come across.
It hasn't happened since I've been here. We've been on time and under budget every time. This is the first time I've actually seen our engineering group, and granted, they're under new management. Last year it was Murray Smith and Associates, this year it's Concert. So I'm not sure if it's just new management on this, or if it was all, our contractors' needs being met, because there, as it was explained to me by the management team at Concert, is that the contractor that we awarded the bid to, had called for additional services consistently throughout the project that they had not budgeted for. So they called the engineer every time that there was a form for a sidewalk, every time there was a form for drainage, every time something was cut open, they called our engineer, and our engineer had to come out and respond. So much more hands-on activity from our engineering corps than what's typical.
So next go around, can we put some contingencies
Yeah.
in place for that?
I believe we'll have to write it into the contract as a protection area item, where like X amount of calls are authorized for review from the city, otherwise contract. So we're gonna have to write it in. We did not write it in. It hasn't been an issue before. Typically, they call you out for form inspection once, and call you out for inspection prior to laying the asphalt and laying the concrete, and there's milestones that we come out and inspect. If it meets the specifications, it's checked off and approved, and then they go forth with the project. This time, they were called out multiple times. Our engineer was in the city for entire days at times, instead of just showing up for a quick half-hour inspection.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we need to put something in the contract that says, yeah, you get X amount, otherwise, contractor's gonna pay for that cost of excessive call-outs.
That'll be definitely a note that I pass on to our engineering group.
And so just to confirm, I mean, like, you said that it wasn't written into the contract, but are there any, kind of recourses that we can have with the contractor on that for?
Well, the
February?
contractor has their punch list, and they're being held to a certain standard for the items that they've delivered. And so there are certain elements that we're holding the contractor responsible for, but this is something that was city time to inspect prior to the contract work being called out by the contractor. Now, typically in the contract, you get 3 call-outs, right? Or you're gonna pay extra, X, Y, and Z. I think that's what we need to stipulate.
And is there a, itemized on this? It's just one lump sum?
I'll have the itemized invoice. They have to submit it to our finance department.
We won't get that until.
That's all done.
Right.
Yeah, so right now we're at contract, and end of the contract essentially, and so in order to, maintain engineering services through the end of the contract, that's what they're estimating is going to be what's remaining.
This is not necessarily defined, then?
Is there any amendment that we can make to go forward to ensure that there aren't additional callouts that?
Yeah, so the original estimate was for 65, and now they've upped it to a not to exceed of 89.6. So it's an increase of $24,600 for the project itself. This is what they're estimating it will take to finish the project through inspections and plans.
So, yeah, other questions for Mike on this?
So you did say that they did present this to you?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And then if they get to the point where they have to exceed, they'll have to come back here.
Yeah.
No, then they're not exceeding it.
Then that's what
We're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No? I will entertain a motion.
It's very lively tonight. I will move to approve the amendment 1 to task force 1, regarding Contour project number 9200251.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And does this need to be a roll call vote or a show of hands?
Resolution to show of hands, fine.
Okay. So, all those in favor of approving, please raise your hand.
5 in-house. Mayor Fender makes 6. Counselor Thompson, 7. Unanimous. And I will be sure to pass on the resounding "do not dare" speak again.
Thank you.
Pleasure is noted.
Okay, so motion is approved. On to our next item of business, which will be 6D, which is the third amendment to the legal services agreement. Mike, would you please take us through this?
Sure. Currently, we are contracted with Jordan Ramus, is one of our legal organizations. The other one is Mr. Watts. So we usually use Jordan Ramus on some of our admin functions, elections, some land use, but mostly administration. We use Mr. Watts on his specialty is more urban growth boundary stuff, land use, and so we've used him for predominantly that. But it's been a while since we've amended our contract with Jordan Ramus, and their hourly rate has gone up since the last time, and so this is the last time we engaged with them and pulled them back in. So this is updating our contract with them to reflect their current hourly rate.
Anybody have any questions?
I'm sorry, am I supposed to be seeing something? I didn't see this on the agenda.
It was an added item beginning of the meeting.
Right, but is there something that we're supposed to be looking?
Do we have a document you sent to me?
It's just, Councilor Thompson, I can explain it. It's a one-page agreement to our service contract with Jordan Ramus. And what it has is the per rate for each specific position, whether it's attorney services or a shareholder, associate, paralegal, project assistant, and it just identifies what those rates will be charged when we bill them or they bill us for services. So when we engage with them, these are their respective rates for which they charge their clients.
Okay, and is that something that we should be looking at?
Yeah, everyone was provided a paper copy.
Oh, I gotcha.
Sorry, that's not here.
I'm opening it up.
Here, I can text.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ronnie's gonna get an electrical or a electronic copy of it.
Thank you.
Mike, just out of curiosity, what is the percentage increase that we're seeing on this? It looks like the last time this was negotiated was 2010.
I think you're seeing, yeah, so, I mean, before it was like 250, I want to say, so it's gone up substantially since last time. I think, what was the rate before? It was like 250 for the principal,
Right.
200 for the associate, and then like 150 or so for the paralegal, and now it's, as you can see, it's gone up about, $60 for the paralegal, $100 for the associate, and $100 for the principal shareholder. And then the project assistant, I think, has only gone up about 10 or 20 bucks, so I think it was like 65 prior
So
to.
they, I was gonna say, it looks like it's in line with legal service charges.
I mean, if you think about the last time that we had done an amendment was, 10+ years ago.
Our municipal service rates are significantly lower than our private client rates. That's because cities always pay regularly on time. We don't have to worry or call and, argue about bills and things. So we do give a discount to all of our municipal clients. And what we're proposing here is in line with what we're doing with all of our other city clients at this point in time.
Thank you.
This is Jamie Fender. I just would echo what was just stated. These prices are slightly lower, for example, to the rates that we would charge in my firm, and they're very comparable to, or on the lower end side of what is kind of the average rate, I would say. So I applaud Jordan Ramus for recognizing the good stewardship of the cities and providing a discount.
Thank you.
for considering it again. It's only been 10, 13 years.
Yeah.
15 years, yeah. Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? Hearing none, so we need a motion to approve the Third Amendment to Legal Services Agreement.
I'll make the motion to approve the Third Amendment to Legal Services between City of King City and Jordan Ramus.
Okay.
I'll second.
Oh, it was,
Already second.
Smart beat you.
I think we
thank
should
you.
do a roll call vote on.
Okay.
I need a roll call.
Okay. So those in favor, please raise your hand.
5, 5.5, 6, 7, unanimous.
So the amendment passes. And thank you. Thank you. So we will move on to item 6E. And this being Mayor Fender, are you in a position to speak to this at this
Yes,
moment?
that's fine. So as you all know, I raised this at the last council meeting that 2 complaints had been filed by 2 different individuals with the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. Those complaints were against myself, Councilor Paulson, Councilor Manelis, and Councilor Acholi. The Oregon Government Ethics Commissioners met in executive session on October 6th, and the 4 of us attended and addressed the complaints and the commission. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, unfortunately, but there was a robust kind of somewhat of a robust discussion, I would say, between the commissioners, and they did vote unanimously, I would add, to investigate the 4 complaints. I will share a few comments that were made. So first of all, the chair made a comment that she felt that at least the information that they have reviewed to date, she felt that it showed that that there was no we showed good faith in our actions, I guess is how she put it, that there wasn't any evidence of bad faith, that she felt our actions appeared to all be within good faith. And a discussion was had around the fact that an investigation, especially noting the local dispute that this is apparently connected with, which they acknowledged, is good for both parties. So the other comments that were made was that an investigation is not a final determination. And there was a little bit, in my opinion, of some hesitancy. In fact, one counselor even stated that he was hesitant to get involved in local disputes. But regardless, that they would, proceed with the investigation. So they wanted it to be very clear, though, that a final determination had not been made. Because in our open forum, a comment had been made against me, I will just reaffirm that the weaponization of OGEC investigations and just filing the complaint and the investigation itself has been long within the arsenal of political, the political landscape. So by virtue of the complaints being filed and by virtue of the OGEC choosing to investigate, in my opinion, and those of many other people, I would say, but I will just stick to my own opinion, right? In of it itself should not be in any way taken that any improper or unethical actions had been taken. The next step is that a hearing has been set for, I don't know the exact date, but March 2024. I received a letter in the mail, I believe only yesterday, stating, reconfirming that the investigation will go forward and that that the hearing was scheduled in March. I am unaware of what transpires in a OGEC investigation. But again, we have a commitment to transparency here and to discuss what is going on. We, the four of us, affirm, and we just simply do not believe that we have a conflict of interest, and we took actions accordingly to our belief. And that is kind of our position. I'm happy to continue to share the information as it comes. And I think I speak on behalf of all four of us that we are all committed to having those discussions. So I would like an agenda item, because again, in my personal opinion, and I am not making any statement on behalf of the city when I say this, but the fact that the timing of these complaints and the recall efforts to me sound very suspicious. It sounds, I believe in my heart that these complaints were filed to embarrass and harass us, and that they were also done so to be able to support a potential, I will say, a potential recall effort. And I will just leave it at that. However, we are committed to, making sure that everyone is up to speed on what is happening, and this city deserves to know. So absolutely an investigation is going forward, and absolutely no final determination as to any conduct. Oh, and I will say, I forgot to say this. The other comment that I recall of note was also that the commissioners had asked staff to inquire into the class exception. So there's a class exception apparently under the rules. And so they directed the staff to also look into that as part of the investigation. So if any of you have any other information that you recall from the meeting that you want to share, feel free. Otherwise, I think that pretty much sums up what took place at the executive session.
I think one of the things that was lost earlier is that basically the staff, in their understanding of the situation, instead of making a call one way or another, decided that the best course of action was to pursue an investigation to either clear everyone of wrongdoing or to identify where those wrongdoings might be, right? So right now there is no proven allegation one way or another. It's just simply there's a complaint at the OGEC and they're looking into it.
I forgot, and Mike, I forgot it. So much like our board, the staff submitted a staff report to the commissioners, just like Mike does, and makes recommendations. And the staff reports for all four of us recommended to the commission to continue to invest, to proceed and investigate. the investigation is not for all of the, in my understanding is that the investigation was narrowed from the complaints because there was a finding that it was unsubstantiated that any of us tried to use our political position to gain any kind of, favor or monetary gain or improperly used our actual position in any way to influence the decision of anything. And so those, my understanding, and again, I'll have to double check, but this is certainly my understanding, is that those allegations that were made against some of us were not continued as to the investigation. And the investigation itself is only for whether our disclosures of our either apparent or actual or our understanding of our conflicts of interest. It's the disclosure on the record itself is what is being investigated, whether we were under a duty to disclose those or not. Now, again, I haven't seen I haven't really seen the exact outline, but that was my understanding, not that every single allegation in the complaints are now going to be investigated. But I will clarify that point and bring that up at the next council meeting so that we understand exactly what allegations are being investigated, and we will make that clear at the next council meeting. I just can't recall on the top of my head, but that was my understanding, that there was some kind of limit to some of the complaint allegations. And just like it was kind of our somewhat understanding going into it, I think as well, after receiving, speaking to other individuals, is that it is exceptionally rare. And I think we find this in our own board, right? That when a staff makes a recommendation, it is exceptionally rare to go against that recommendation. So, that I'm sure there's data that we could look into. I don't think it really matters because at this point they're going to investigate, but we will make sure to have this on a standing agenda item going forward and be transparent about this process and take it from there.
Thank you, Mayor Fender.
Mayor Fender, I just want to assure you that I or the recall is in no way involved with ethics allegations. Sorry.
Thank you, but please do keep it to public comment. Thank you. And just to note, my recollection concurs with Mayor Fender's discussion. Yeah, that is the end of our agenda for as far as new business. We will go on to the police chief's report. Chief Apple.
Real short, just little, kind of noticed since the last meeting, uptick in criminal activity, custodial arrests have been up to about, usually probably in a 2 or 3 month period of time. Also, were touched by the serial commercial burglar that had been attacking the Tiger, hit several businesses and stole some damage here in King City. He's been arrested.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I can't hear you, Chief.
I can't either.
So just giving an update on the criminal statistics that have popped up since the last meeting.
Can you hear now?
Can you hear him now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
And so we're, we had about a dozen arrests in the prior 30 days, which is, that's a definite spike for here in KC. And so, an update on that, ongoing criminal investigations that are also occurring. To a couple of commercial businesses, unable to retrieve the data on the calls for service, but those have swung upwards as well. And I just kind of gave an update on some serial
commercial burglar that was, doing a lot of activity in Tigard. A couple of things were on the news where he, like, I believe, first during a small chase. So he's been arrested, so hopefully the people that were affected by it here in King City will be able to, you know, be, reimbursed for some of their damage. And, that is about it. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Chief Appleton. Now, Mike, City Manager report.
I finally got through those 3,800 emails, so I'm happy to be back from vacation. Come on, back up. As you've probably seen, most of our road projects are nearing completion. There's a few punch list items that they're working on. It is over budget, based on the number of callouts, as well as some problems with the project itself. They're looking at a couple of little things, punch list items, particularly, the ADA ramps were placed improperly, so they had to go and redo some of those. There was some issues with the park where they had some broken irrigation lines, some ruts in the field. They were supposed to fix those, reseed them. I haven't been out this week to check and see how it's growing back and see if it's recovering, but I see heads nodding, so I'm guessing it's still not recovered. The path looks great, but they did manage to chip the art project bench on they do a repair on that piece. We still have to fix some of the irrigation lines, but it's winter time, so we're turning those off anyways. Dave has been working on a slight retaining wall up at the top portion of the parking lot sign down on the main pathway coming off of 136. So you'll probably see him working on that in the near future. Business here has been busy, as you can imagine, with the recall going around, as well as the OGEC ethics complaint, fielding those two items, and then the coordination surrounding that has been a little daunting lately, as well as all of the amendments through the Goal 5 Safe Harbors codes and the conversations back and forth with Department of State Lands and Department of Land Conservation and Development to make sure that all those codes were in alignment with state laws and statewide planning goals, and ensuring that that's going to give us the product that we need at the end of the day. So happy to have that behind me now, and we can start looking forward to some brighter futures and some better times. Our next step is the West Side Trail segment, so we'll kind of segue our focus into the planning effort that's associated with that, and that's where we get to do the fun stuff like dog parks and trails and linear wetland enhancements and playgrounds and pickleball courts and all the good stuff that is associated with that. You will notice up on Deep Bend that there's a new rapid beacon crossing being installed, safe routes to school through Washington County. That was one of the things that we've been trying to coordinate with them for quite a few years now. So I was glad to see that.
I think it's done. I just drove by it a couple nights ago. It looked like it was done.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a curve, the center island, I don't know if it's blinking, but the center island was there and the lights were up. Okay, then.
It worked really good this morning.
That's good. I'm glad that that's there. That was a very important safety crossing that I think needed to be addressed, and I'm glad it did. I was actually trying to go after some ODOT money through their, it was a all routes or transportation safety grant, and it turned out that that beacon crossing was on the Washington County project list, so I didn't have to go for that grant after all. But we are going for other grants as well. We are going for a technical assistance grant that we talked about on October 4th to help with a citywide local wetland inventory of all of our growth areas. We are going for an Oregon Water Enhancement Board grant as well, to work on our economic, social, SDGs analysis for all of our pending projects for the foreseeable future. We are also looking at potential grants to look at a boat launch in the West Side Trail segment. So at the bottom part there at King City Park, having an ADA boat accessible launch at that point in time. So we're excited about what those offers are, what it entails, perhaps some public restrooms, perhaps some electric scooter or electric bike charging stations, perhaps some kayak lockers, perhaps a boat launch, perhaps some docks. We're excited about what the future entails along that strip, and it should go along also with the long-range plan for the West Side Trail segment, which has a bridge essentially going from our side of the river over to Heritage Pines on the southern side of the river and connecting to this Walton Greenway Trail. So hopefully our trail network connects with their trail network and then goes throughout those west sides. So that's the long-range plan for that piece. First, we're trying to get through this initial component of design, engineering, and hopefully getting in for permits, at least being permit ready, so that then we can look at the next step. So West Side Trail segments on that one. We did get some complaints about signs in public right of way, so we removed the signs. We have them, they can be picked up at City Hall. I don't know exactly what the fine is for the signs, but we'll get that information out. Our ordinance right now doesn't allow signs of that nature in the public right of way or in people's yards, technically. So our sign ordinance is very restrictive currently. The ordinance that you just passed tonight will actually alleviate some of those. It allows for yard signs in private property, but not in public right of way. So hopefully in the future, I don't have to go out and pull them. Other than that, not much else to report that you don't already know about. We know that there's an Oregon government ethics complaint. We're working on that and trying to be as forthright and apparent as possible. We know that there's an ongoing recall effort through the city of 6 counselors, which would only leave us with 1 counselor, and see how that goes. We are working with the petitioner at a meeting today to try to iron out some of the details on that and get them back out and running. So with that, I don't have much else to report. We had a sit-down meeting with FFA to go over a municipal design today of what a future City Hall rec center might look like on the west side in the growth area. We know that there is a annexation application in the wind from some of the groups on the far west side. So we're anticipating seeing that application in the very near future. So that may be the next thing that comes your way.
Mike, I just have a couple of comments or questions.
Sure.
Oh, I just lost my train of thought. I apologize. I'm not feeling well. I guess at this time, are we? Well, I'm going to think better of it. Never mind. I wanted to make a statement regarding the recall because, but I don't know if it's appropriate at this point. You brought it up, so I don't know how the other counselors feel, or if we want to put it on an agenda item to discuss later, but.
Sure. I mean, I'll just kind of put our position right now is in the recall manual, it requires that the statement be factual to the T, factual to the T. You know? So we felt that after review that there were some statements in there that were misleading or false, and so we worked with that petitioner hopefully to address those statements. We'll continue to work with that petitioner to hopefully get out some factual, or to get out a statement that's based on factual information.
So you talk about that too, about factual. When they knock on doors for signatures, they need to make sure they state facts that are in there, right? Not, which they didn't when they came to my door and knocked on my door.
I would say one of the
I will
things that
also-
we saw.
You're the petitioner. You
I will just say, I have spoken to 3 neighbors that also, when the petitioners went to their door, Not only did they not say they were there for a recall petition, but they simply stated they were there to stop Fisher Road. And they provided no discussion or information regarding what was actually transpiring. And here's all the
Yeah, and I have
statement
it on
I'm gonna
camera,
make
too.
tonight on this is this. 4 of us ran uncontested in November, uncontested. That was the majority
so much,
of the
sure.
council prior to any vote on the TSP and master plan. And to make the city residents pay for a recall when only the 4 of us stepped up is very personal. It is an absolute personal attack and affront on us as individuals in our capacity to serve this city, and in my opinion, on the city as a whole. And the fact that no one stood up to run in a normal election and now can potentially cost so much money is just shocking to me. And it, candidly, in my personal opinion, again, not reflecting any statement on behalf of the city, it's cowardly.
I would just say that, going back to what we were talking about with factual statement, a couple of you mentioned that it was to stop Fisher Road. That was one of the things that we talked with the petitioner about. Doing a recall doesn't stop Fisher Road. That would cost the city hundreds of thousands, if not another $1 million, to scrap everything that we've done and restart. And the city doesn't have the revenue or the funds to do that. And I don't believe that anyone would give us grant funds again to redo what they've just paid us to finish.
Sorry,
So-
all that grant funding that took years to obtain would be just out the window, and all new plans would be born out of the pockets of all of us.
As part of the recall petition and the solicitation of signatures, is it required to state the potential cost to the city of a recall election? I know that, years ago, before I understood some of these things, I would not have had any idea or given much thought to the fact that special elections are costly.
That it isn't required that the cost be announced or put onto the petition that people see when they sign. On the other hand, you folks do have a bully pulpit, and you can tutorials in the paper. No, that's what concerns are about how effective the city guys do that as elected officials. I'm not. For the city staff is not allowed to run it. You folks are.
Thank you. I do want to state that I echo Mayor Finder's confusion. When we just had an election with 4 incumbent councilors running unopposed. So it's confusing. I fully advocate for people, using whatever they are able to. However, I'm sorry, it is not public comment.
I'll just, we'll talk.
You said something, I just responded to you.
Mr.
If we could
Swanson?
please have quiet. Thank you.
Anyway, it is confusing. I do appreciate the process. It exists for a reason, so, just a little cognitive dissonance for me personally.
And I will say that I spoke to the petitioners when they came to my door. They didn't even know who I even was. They did introduce it as regarding Fisher Road. But I spoke with them for about 5 minutes. We had a very cordial conversation about things. I feel like it was a productive conversation, and productive conversations are what we have wanted to have throughout this entire process. And that's something that I think has been lost throughout the process because there's been so many emotions that have been involved in it. And again, coming back to echo what you were saying and what Mayor Fender said, you know, when proper elections were held in 2022, the four of us who were on the ballot, there was nobody else who stepped up and wanted to take part. And we still see this with our council meetings. There's 4 participants who are here in the audience today, where public involvement is important. And those of us who are participating up here are doing it as volunteers, are doing it because we care about our community. We stepped up to walk the neighborhoods and get our signatures to be able to be on the ballot, to take part in this and to participate. And for me personally, it's really disappointing when I look out and I see that we don't have participation from our community. And that's very difficult because as a result, we're doing what we can with the information that we have, with the best recommendations we have, and it's just dumbfounding that we don't have participation from the greater public, and we don't have it on people that want to step up and be part of the board. We're still working on getting planning commissioners. We're still working on getting budget committee members. There's ways to participate, and frankly, we need more participation from our community.
Yeah, I would just say, you know, as a volunteer group, you guys are unpaid for your services. You guys put in long hours. We are required as a city to have a transportation system plan that mitigates our impacts of both now and into the future of all of the growth that's projected. And so, you know, the 3 sets of traffic engineering consultants that we hired throughout this process all came up with very similar answers and very similar solutions. And, you know, we went through an in-depth alternative analysis on those alternatives, and it basically boiled down to over 2 miles of condemnation of Beach Bend on the north and south sides, condemning multifamily, single-family, residential units, which was considered social injustice to marginalized communities, versus a road that may cut through property but doesn't harm anyone's homes. So, you know, I think Mayor Bender said it best when she said the path the consultants recommended was the path of least detriment to the fewest potential people. So, you know, unfortunately, you were tasked with making a tough decision that you had to make. I would state that Fisher Road was not part of that decision. Your decision was to adopt a transportation system plan that was a network of roads, and it's not just Fisher Road that's continuing over. Capulus continuing over, Avenue B continues over, Montague goes over. All the roads that are currently stubbed to the Bonneville power line keep going. So the alternative was cut through traffic on Prince Albert, 123rd, 116th, 131st. All the other streets throughout the area would get cut through, and we wouldn't have any potential revenue sources to help pay for those. So the consultants made a recommendation. They developed a transportation system plan. You're put in a position where by state law and Metro Regional Functional Plan, you're required to have a transportation system plan. So you're required to adopt those, and they have to meet state and federal guidelines for, well, maybe not federal, but definitely state guidelines for transportation regulations. So, and mitigating those impacts. So I applaud you on your effort, because it was one that was not an easy course of action, but it's one that needed to be done. So.
Mike, this is Jamie again. I just remembered the other point that I wanted to make, which was with regard to your comments on the signs. And I just wanted to remind everyone that the last time there were issues with signs throughout the city was during the kind of following George Floyd and the social kind of justice movement and discussion that was kind of sweeping the nation at that time. And as a council, we decided early on in those, at that time, that we were going to lessen the implementation of our sign ordinance at that time. We kind of decided as a council, we talked about it, lots of people were putting up lots of different signs. And then following kind of that time period, then we had kind of the no Fisher Road signs kind of go up as well. And so we kind of continued that policy to be a little bit lackadaisical, if you will, by choice to the sign ordinance. And so I just wanted to kind of remind some of those who might not have been on the council at that time that I think, now we kind of have moved through that time period and are now enforcing the signs as we discussed. I don't know if you council meet, I don't know when we discussed it last, but anyway, I just wanted to kind of mention that as well.
Just as a point of clarity on that though, Mayor, one of the things with the signs is that we've always been fairly straightforward with signs in the public right of way.
Yeah.
Those aren't permitted, so
Correct.
that's why we've always pulled signs in the public right of way, but we didn't go on people's properties and try to enforce signs on the properties. We felt
That's
that
what
it
they
was
chose. That's
we felt
it.
it was a freedom of speech thing, even though our code prohibits it. And just the hassle of having to write every single landowner a letter and then going out and seizing the sign, it becomes a bit of a administrative nightmare. And so, like you had mentioned, we did address it in the ordinance amendment so that we don't have to continue enforcing the no sign policy, but there's still no signs in public right of way.
Thank you for clarifying. Any other questions for Mike? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the counselor reports. And let me start with Counselor Moore, please.
Well, you'll be glad you did, because I have none.
Okay. Actually,
I don't have a report, but I have a reminder, that we had agreed that, I believe we said September, but I think we needed a little more time. So, I will be contacting you to talk about what we need to do to set up a committee for, student rep. So that was we said, let's talk about it in September, but I think, it's gonna be a November situation.
There's another thing that was brought up by Tigard-Tualatin School District on joining the Pride thing. Mayor Fender, were you gonna bring that up?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll leave it for you then. Okay, so student council.
Yes.
We'll do that, okay.
Yeah, and so I think we approved that we can form a committee to
I think that's right.
figure out what we need to do next. So I'll connect with you on that. That was right before, you left on vacation. That's all.
thank you, Counselor Moore. Counselor Manillas.
Just quick, I was the backup for the LOC conference that happened. There was a mix-up in when the deadline was supposed to happen, so I didn't get a registration in time. Then I called them. I could have gone, but all the classes were full, so I didn't end up go because I didn't want to just have to sit around during some of the class time. So that was a bummer to miss that. Hope we'll be able to get that next year. And that's really all I had.
Thank you, Counselor Manillas. Counselor Ochoa?
I don't have anything to share tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Petrie?
So I do have a few notes from the JPAC and MPAC meetings from September. JPAC, as a reminder, is a joint policy. This is Metro Committee. This is the Joint Policy Committee on Transportation, and MPAC is the Metro Policy Advisory Committee. So JPAC had just an update on their Better Bus. As previously mentioned to you, this is a project to improve transit speed and reliability. This update concerned their current work on mapping of delay points through data and by talking with local jurisdictions to identify where delays are occurring in the system and discussing options for improvement projects. And on impact, they had an update on urban growth management. They're provided an overview of the status of, they have 2 new advisory groups under the Metro COO, which I think I mentioned to you at last meeting. Of the stakeholder roundtable had their first meeting, and this represents folks in the insurance and development and other kinds of stakeholders that would be concerned about the urban growth areas. They also have their new group, the youth cohort. They finalized the group and had their first meeting. There are 17 members from across the region, with the majority of those folks under 20 years old. So it's kind of exciting. They're going to be advising Metro. But then on both the JPAC and MPAC, the real conversation was about the RTP. And they both received the same presentation. And this presentation was the staff reporting on the comments they've received from the public comment period. In general, there was a clear call for accountability, that policies are implemented and priorities align. And staff asked both committees to look into what they've determined as 5 key policy topics for the committees to discuss before we actually get into making recommendations to Metro. And number 1 is the investment emphasis, project mix and timing. Number 2, RTP pricing policy application to total projects. Number 3 is increasing regional transportation investments. Number 4, mobility policy implications. And number 5, climate tools and analysis. And all of these are things that this was September meeting, so these are all things the committees have been discussing, thinking about, and we're coming back in this month. So the response to the comments from the committee. So JPAC members were very concerned about the funding needs and how the RTP projects need to align with the regional needs and not just Portland's needs. JPAC asked staff to work on a letter to send to ODOT that would address concerns about ODOT bundling projects for maintenance, et cetera, with no lists or details. They would like to see more transparency from ODOT. They want the letter to address questions about revenue projections and ask ODOT to really lean into the revenue problem, which we all are recognizing, and you're hearing about in the news. Repeat issues and goals most important to JPAC and to reinforce JPAC concerns for the region, such as arterial safety. They're going to review that letter tomorrow at their meeting. MPAC, their concerns about the RTP. They really want to have additional funding discussions and form some kind of a call to action. All the cities and counties are hurting for transportation dollars. Staff advised that as they work on the final draft of the RTP, they will be working on adding these concerns from the committees to what they call Section 8 of the RTP, which is the chapter on implementation. But bottom line, everybody is wanting to know, are we going to have the money to pay for all of these projects? So MPAC will vote on the RTP for their recommendation to Metro. They vote on October 25th. And JPAC votes on November 16th. Metro votes on November 30th. That's it.
Councilor Pucci, was there any discussion about their models for the transportation, like mass transit versus single vehicle occupancy versus like on their modeling on how they project what kind of impacts are going to be on the transportation networks?
Well, not particularly this, but the comments received, which is why I was talking about the policy, mobility policy implementation. So a lot of the public comments address are you really still looking at mobility? Are you still looking at biking and pedestrian and all those things that we, the people who are commenting, want to see happen? So it really was more about the comments rather than any particular.
Right.
So they're all supposed to be continuing to look at all these things. So we're getting down to the crunch now.
So in the RTP, I know one of the problems that we noted on the WCCC TAC is that there's no, like, South County price, like, we wanna see 99W be raised on that, at least get us some sort of plan going on there. But there's also concerns over, how their model predicts demand, because my understanding is a lot of their modeling puts the emphasis on, emphasis on, bike modes and mass transit modes, and we don't really have either one that's connected down our way. We don't have a mass transit route serving our area in the southwest, and biking, getting a safe bike corridor from Portland out here still hasn't been developed. So, I was just wondering if they had discussed that.
I can tell you the issues were raised by both Washington County and Clackamas County people when it came to talking about the transit and saying, let's use better bus as an example. Everybody thinks it's a great idea, but where is this gonna help us in Washington County? And Clackamas is saying the very same thing. So this is, again, great ideas, love the way it's working. It needs to be spread out beyond Portland, which is the consensus of pretty much folks in both of the committees.
And then, did they discuss the impact of tolling on what that's gonna do to diversion through, between I-5 and 205? And basically, you're looking at 12 and Lake Oswego.
Oh, yeah. They just, that's tolling to the end of the conversation. They didn't have a lot of time to put in on it, but, actually, there's gonna be, I think next week, or end of the month, there's going to be a, town hall that we're putting on specifically on tolling.
And, I mean, my concern would be if you toll 205, that traffic's going to try to avoid 205, so they're just gonna go down I-5, 217 to 26, and so it's just gonna bunch up all the traffic on our end. And then those that are trying to get to like Oregon City or whatever else are just gonna bunch up through Lake Oswego on 43 or Avenue A or whatever it is through there. I just see this
Yeah.
as causing huge transportation problems throughout our network.
Well, I mean, everybody sees that, and of course, the mayor's the governor's pushed back. Polling can't start until 2025, but, this conversation is just going to be continuing on. So right now, I think everyone's trying to get the RCC approved, because they have to get it approved by the end of November, else we are in trouble with the Fed. And then the conversation's going to be ongoing. But they want to form committees, and specifically, MPAC talks about forming committees specifically to talk about tolling issues in general idea of funding. The revenues, the projections are that, the next 10 years, ODOT's not going to have the money they need for the projects they have planned.
And the tolling's a revenue generator.
That was one of the items.
Yeah, and I saw some.
Can't do it all in taxes because the taxes are coming down because of the electrical vehicles. So it's a conundrum and that's why both committees are going to ODOT and saying, we have really got to get serious about talking about what revenue, what we can be able to afford to do and what we can get, how we can get more revenue.
If you do get a chance to talk to one of those, I would just ask that you talk to them about tolling. If they're gonna put tolls on 205, that's just gonna push everyone to I-5. So, I mean, at some point, it needs to either be, and just in my opinion, it needs to be all or nothing, right? So if you put it in one side, you're just gonna push everything to the other side. But if you put it equally around, then people will continue to go down the routes they're going. But I'm not a big fan of tolling anyways, because
I saw something today that someone in either Congress or one of the reps has sent a letter to Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, to get them involved in all of this now. So I think there's going to be a big pause on that. Sounds like.
I mean, because, the tolling is pretty much assured for the bridge, the I-5 bridge. And it's looking pretty serious about the Abernathy Bridge. They may not push it back to cover the section where they want to widen 205 from,
from 5.
what's that street, I can't, anyway, that goes through Lake Elk.
Stafford?
Stafford, right, because they were wanted to widen Stafford up to the bridge, from 2 to 3 lanes on both sides. That probably is gonna be pushed back. But, if there's enough pushback from everyone, it may not be, but again, the thing is, how do you pay for this stuff?
Right.
The bridge has to be paid for, the bridge has to be updated, it's gotta be,
Well, they're probably,
earthquake and everything else.
end up doing like a vehicle fee tax or some kind of,
I've heard some hodgepodge method that they're talking about. There's a few that they're tossing around, is my understanding, but.
Yeah.
Well, I will also, oh, sorry, just from kind of the regional mayor's perspective, some of the conversations that we're having at some of the mayor kind of committees is also this kind of sense of equity, not, there's a lot of discussion about equity and the burden of the actual construction on the marginalized communities, which is typically where it falls. And so, I mean, there's a lot of different discussions around equity at the moment. However, one of the points that is really being talked about with the mayors is that there's a sense of if you are only tolling the southern freeways, then only those residents living in the southern suburbs are going to bear the costs of the majority of the tolling, versus if you just toll all the freeways or all of them equally around the metro region, then you spread that burden across the metro region kind of equally. And I think for us out here, the other huge discussion, right, is obviously going to be 99, because Highway 99 is one of the only alternative routes other than freeway to get to downtown for most of the suburban commuters, right? And so the mayors along kind of from, we've talked about this before, is bringing in the mayors of Newburgh and McMinnville to join myself, the mayor of Sherwood, Tualatin, Durham, and Tigard. And now we're getting kind of more support from our other mayors in this area as well. So the mayor of Hillsborough and Beaverton, and some of even the mayors farther out, are constantly bringing up the inequities around Highway 99, right? And so I mean, it is the revenue streams. It's a difficult conversation because if you don't like tolling to begin with, then to have your mayor say, well, toll all of them, right? But I would just say there is a lot of discussion and pushback going, at every single meeting across the board right now. So,
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. No, I just finished my question. I was done, but if there's, all of this conversation this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's just gonna not go away, and it's gonna continue on, because as we see in the future, one cities don't have the money for their roads, and state doesn't have money for their roads, and, and people are gonna demand that they be in good condition, so what do you do?
Thank you, Councilor Petrie. I'll go to Councilor Thompson online.
Hi, I don't have anything to report tonight.
Thank you. Mayor Fender.
I would just continue the cheerful budget crisis discussions. So equally along in Washington County, we are facing some very difficult budget projections. At the same time, some desperately needed improvements to both the courthouse and to the jail. A white paper essentially has been presented to the commissioners of Washington County regarding the kind of dire state of our criminal justice kind of system within Washington County. And so the paper really outlines the knock-on effect between staff shortages, jail constraints of the actual jail itself. So the jail is not being utilized to full capacity because both of staffing issues and because of building conditions. But even if the jail was to be at full capacity, it's still woefully inadequate for the needs of the county, and then the knock-on effect to the criminal prosecutions within the county and so on. I mean, there's just this huge knock-on effect. And I can just tell you the issues in the criminal court have a knock-on effect in the civilian court. And so there's just huge delays to get any adjudication through the court system at the moment. And there's a big issue we talked about at our Washington County Mayor's meeting. We had both Sheriff Garrett, who I'm sure most of you have heard is retired. Under Sheriff Caprice Massey has been named his successor. So that's very exciting. And we will look forward to an invitation to Sheriff Garrett's retirement party and to welcome new Sheriff Massey when she takes her post. I digress. So both District Attorney Kevin Barton and Sheriff Garrett joined the Washington County Mayor's meeting and discussed kind of the dire state of affairs. And then they have presented the commission. At the same time, we know that the county is facing a huge budget forecast shortfall. And there are immense programs that don't have full funding. There are transportation, right? Programs that are at risk. And then there is this kind of brewing issue where traditionally transportation projects within the county are funded through what's called MSTIP. And MSTIP is general funds taken from the county budget and put into the MSTIP fund to fund the transportation projects that the WCCC, that's the Washington County Coordinating Committee, votes on and approves and kind of recommends to the commission. Right? So one of the issues is that MSTIP has been affected through budget cuts and projected further cuts down the line. And there's a little bit of a discussion and kind of a brewing issue that MSTIP should not be part of the budget cuts because this was earmarked money by the voters. And so that kind of discussion and dispute really is kind of brewing a little bit, but all parties, kind of the cities and the commissioners and everyone is kind of trying to figure out solutions kind of together. On that vein, the WCCC, we have a retreat. It's the first time since I've been on the WCCC that I've heard about doing a retreat. So I think it's a great idea. Micah, as the second or the alternate to the WCCC, you are invited to that retreat as well. The date currently is December 4th from 1 to 4 p.m. That's a hold date for the moment. That was just kind of announced a couple of days ago. And then Mike, as city manager, you are also going to be invited to the retreat, and they are hoping that the three of us can go. So if you can hold that date in your calendar, and then an email should be coming next week with more kind of proposed agenda and the dates and the place and so forth, right? Then we met with the Washington County mayors. We had our monthly meeting with Chair Harrington and talked more about kind of budget constraints and issues. I think public safety levy, a bond for the jail. I mean, those are all on the table and likely coming down the pipeline. When exactly, it's unclear, but in the next few years, I think we can expect that. Last week, at City Hall, we hosted a co-mixer with Metro. It was phenomenal. We had the entire City Hall filled to the brim, it felt like. The council chamber was full, the main room out there was full and had food and beverages. And it was really wonderful to get to know kind of different directors and kind of executives at Metro. So we had each department director and their kind of co-director or their vice director. I don't know all of everyone's official titles, but essentially all the heads of the various departments of Metro were here, and we learned all about lots of the good work that we don't typically get to hear about that Metro is doing. And it was wonderful to, hang out and speak to Councillor Rosenthal, Metro Councillor Carlos, and Councillor Christine, and her last name is escaping me at the moment, came, and so did Courtney Neron. Several mayors from the region showed up, several city managers, a few of you here, which was great, and some planning commissioners. So that was all wonderful. I had been invited to attend the Tualatin River Keepers gala, and was unable to attend at the last minute due to some scheduling changes for my children's sport. So Planning Commission President Annie Paulson attended with Metro Councillor Rosenthal. And so that was great. And I'm going to be setting up coffee with the director of the executive director of Tualatin River Keepers. So, and then let's see, several other, I went to the Family Justice Center of Washington County, held a event, a charity 5K run, and a kind of, supply drop-off, kind of some donation drop-off that my family and I went out to Hillsborough to attend last weekend. And it was wonderful because King City was there and showing support for the Family Justice Center, which I was unaware that they were going to be there. So it was a great surprise. And I really applaud the King City Police Department to be involved in these community events without any ask from any of us in this room. And so that was wonderful. And I'm sure they raised lots of money. And the Family Justice Center, as you all know, is the kind of women abused women's shelter and kind of resource center for the county, but they are also expanding to expand into child abuse resources as well. So they are doing some really great things down the line. And I'm not going to make any announcements, but I heard some exciting news from DA Barton there. And so there's some good things happening that are coming down the pipeline that we'll learn about. So with that, I think that's everything that I participated in, at least in the last week and a half. And I will update you guys next time.
Mayor Fender. I also attended the Metro Mixer. It was a really great opportunity to get to speak with not only those from Metro, but I really appreciated the opportunity to speak with some of the councilors and mayors from other cities within the region. Really enjoyed that opportunity. A lot of neat ideas and a lot of good connections were made from it. Last week, I attended the Policy Advisory Board for the Community Development Block Grants. We're currently working to evaluate and make determination for funding for a couple of home projects that are on our table to look at right now. And I apologize, I just got back into town about 2 hours before this meeting, so I was not quite as well organized as I had intended to be, especially when leading the meeting this time. So I will say on a personal note, Mayor Fender, I truly hope that you are well, and we look forward to seeing you and having you lead our next council meeting.
Thank you. I forgot two things as well. I apologize, everyone. We can chalk it up to me feeling terrible. First, so Tiger Tualatin School district has reached out and would like to know if we would like to coordinate with them to plan and participate in their Pride event and their Juneteenth events. They would like to create a planning committee. So it doesn't sound like a decision as to what those two events would look like, but they have at least requested if we would like to be participating with them and if we want to join the planning committee. And so I personally think it's a great idea. We had wanted to work with a Washington County organization to do our first Pride event in King City. All of the events of this year had derailed those efforts a little bit, although I believe that as a body, we are still interested. It just might have to be next year because we're running out of time this year. So I don't know if we need to necessarily put that on the agenda, or if we want to talk about it right now, if you know, I don't know how formal you guys want to make this. I would just suggest that I respond and say that we are interested in learning more and finding out, and then at the next council meeting, we can put it on the agenda to discuss further so we get a better understanding of what it would entail. And then, so I guess I'll pause there and just see what people have what are your thoughts as to that?
For me personally, I think that would be good to add to next month's agenda.
Yeah, I think, get more information. We can add that
Yep.
onto the agenda.
Okay, so Ronnie, can you put an item on next month's agenda for that to discuss TTSD, Pride, and Juneteenth? We'll put that on there. And then lastly, assuming I am well, I will be emceeing the Deer Creek Jogathon on Friday. It is one of my most favorite mayor duties that I get to do. And so I will update you as to well, we don't hope for scandal, do we, at a jogathon at an elementary school, but for the drama and the exciting, I don't know, efforts of the kids. How about that? So that is all now I have tonight.
Thank you. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Make a motion. Sure.
That was almost a tie.
Second.
I'll give it to Mark since he's here first. Councilman Allen gets the motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Raise your hand.
5 and now. You on? Adjourned.
With that, we are adjourned. And just for those people who are here in the building, the City of we are going to adjourn into executive session. City of King City Council will now need an executive session for the purpose of meeting with legal counsel. This executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.660 2H, which allows the council to meet in executive session to discuss the attorney-client privilege. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room.
Council President, if you could announce that in the published agenda, it says 4 rather than 2H. It's a simple typo.
Yes, so, and to clarify, the public agenda incorrectly,
There is no 4.
yes, listed the statute, and it is, the correct is as read, ORS 192.660 2H. Thank you.
I just ran into that in another city 2 days ago.
Can we take 2 minutes? I can use it.
Yeah, we need to go.
Yeah.
Wait. Why didn't you scan? Okay, Ronnie, what was we?
So that's, Metro Stipend for Transportation Improvement Program. So, Washington County is a region